Yo, what up? It's Ohio 7715, Devin.
Hey, Devin, what's up? What's on your mind
Not
tonight?
much. How you guys doing?
Oh, I'm doing better than Eric, but we're rolling on through.
Yeah. Okay.
So, what's on your mind tonight, Devin?
Well, we got started in on that Michigan stuff, right? The cheating, and just something I know it gets talked about all the time. I'm not a real emotional person, but I always see people talking about all the players that went to the NFL, and even when people talk about Colson Loveland or Will Johnson, and I get that they're good players, but you know, there was cheating involved, right? So that was
Correct.
proven and that was done. So how can people actually make, a real evaluation of these players and actually know how good they really are? I mean, even the defensive tackles, you know what I mean? I mean,
hmm
they had some type of advantage,
hmm
right? That's been proven. So, at what level do you say, hey, they're really good, or they're just good, or we just straight up don't know?
That's an excellent question because I think you look. Will Johnson was fairly highly touted coming out of high school. Um, and
Yeah.
I think I do think he is a good player. But you're right. We have to question how good because the fact is, if you know what the other team's running, you have a decided, no matter what the people from that team up north will tell you, you have a decided advantage. You know what coverages to play. You know who to blitz, who to drop back. If it's a defensive thing, you know exactly what defense to set into. Um, you're right. There's no true gauge of how great they are, and then you look and you have to wonder what's going to happen to all these guys that were drafted, especially the high draft picks this coming season in the NFL.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm waiting to see. And it's, as an Ohio State fan, it's been hard to have an actual logical conversation with somebody about it because, I just get accused of the Ohio State fan glasses or whatever, right? But I can take those off for a second and let's just say you reverse the roles and say, like, all right, let's call it Georgia. Georgia got caught cheating, right? So then how are you going to evaluate any players on their team? Or let's call it Ohio State. How
Right.
are you going to evaluate Ohio State players when they, if let's say Will Johnson, you know what I mean, knew that throw was coming to Marvin?
Yeah,
Trying
exactly.
to make it pretty easy. He knows it's a
Well,
slant. You know what I'm saying?
in,
Like,
in his
I would
defense,
intercept that.
in his defense, we all knew the throw was going to Marvin because that's the only receiver that Kyle McCord ever looked for. So,
Yeah.
but but no, I get your point, and you're right. You are absolutely right. We can't give a fair assessment of the talent of these guys when the fact is, like I said, you're holding the playbook. You guys had the playbook. So you can't
Yeah.
say how great this. And I personally, the Minnesota Vikings and their fans, I feel sorry for because these guys think they're getting the next Tom Brady. What they're getting is the next Elvis Gerbeck. You know, they are
Yeah.
not getting a great
Yeah.
player in JJ McCarthy. Yeah, he's fairly athletic, but you know what? I don't think he makes good decisions, as we saw in that Bowling Green game last year. I don't think that he makes extremely good throws. Um, I think his accuracy is a question. If you look at a lot of his big plays, they were either to wide open receivers running downfield that were fast enough that he couldn't overthrow them, or they were underneath to running backs or wide receivers who made the yardage after the catch. So I
Yeah.
don't think that that JJ McCarthy is going to be a good productive quarterback, and I feel sorry for the fans of the Minnesota Vikings who really wasted a quality first round pick position on that.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, then you ask yourself this too. Okay, so what position on offense, right, would benefit the most from knowing the defensive plays?
well, quarterback. Oh, well, the offensive
Yeah.
line
So,
would benefit a lot too from knowing
yeah.
defensive plays. As far as you're going to know your block scheme, you're going to know if
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the
yeah.
plays, are they going to blitz, or they going to
But
doing some kind
but
of a stunt. But
overall,
overall, it's the quarterback.
the offensive line plays good. Quarterback looks better. So I would argue that out of all the players on offense,
Mhm.
if this cheating made a player look better, it would be the QB and make
Oh,
them look the
definitely.
best.
It would be either him and or the running backs. But that being said,
Yep.
I don't want to take anything away from Blake Corum because I do believe that Corum is
Yeah.
actually a pretty quality running back. I do. I think he's got a lot
Yeah.
of skill. I
No, I
think,
mean, I say all this, right? But I mean, I know who the good players were, right?
sure,
This is just something I wanted to bring up, like,
and
and
it's a
have a
good
logical
point.
conversation about. I mean,
Yeah,
I can admit they were a tough team. I could admit that I'm not sure exactly how much they needed to even cheat, right? Which is the sad part about the entire thing. And I know we're beating a dead horse at this point in time, but that's what I wanted to talk about.
yeah, and it's a great topic of conversation because you could actually take and break these guys down position by position and say how much was this guy helped by the cheating, how much wasn't this guy helped by the cheating. Like I said,
Yeah.
the thing is overall, I think the first year in the NFL is going to tell a lot for these guys because honestly, McCarthy, let's call it what it is. He's up against Sam Darnold. If he doesn't win that starting position, there's a major problem. And then
Yeah, there
he
is.
has a stacked team around him. One of the best offensive lines in the game, arguably the best receiver currently in the game. If you can't win with that team, if you can't put up the numbers with the team that he's surrounded by, then you're going to see just how much the cheating helped his game.
Yeah.
I want to bring up one point, guys, and that is the fact that, not that I feel sorry for their fan base, but as fans, they will never be able to say, hey, we had the best team in the country that year. It'll always be tainted. And
Yeah,
and if they did have the best team and they didn't need to cheat, then they'll never know. No one
yeah,
will ever know the truth about how good that team truly was because they did cheat. And that's the sad part about all of this. And you bring up a very good point in that how do you evaluate the talent when you know that they know the plays? And
Yeah.
I think you have to rely more on the measurables as a
mhm,
scout at that point. Like if you don't have the film to back up your thoughts of what you feel about a player, then I think you got to look at how they did in the combine. What are their measurables? What's their character as a player, etc. I think Buckeye Blitz said it earlier in the chat. That's where the interviews take place. You got to talk to them man to man.
Yeah.
yeah. Great
So
point,
for
Eric.
me, if I pretend I'm a scout, right? You can have real measurables, right? You can't cheat those, right? But
Right.
what does the cheating take out of the game? It takes out that natural instinct and it
Mhm.
takes out that read, right? So how much do you value somebody's reading ability when it comes to reading an offense or reading a defense? And how much do you value somebody's natural instinct to play the game of football? You know what I mean? I can't see how a scout can look at that unless you're just ignoring it, right? And, I just don't know how much you would weigh that in to whether you're going to draft him or not and all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I do. And obviously it didn't destroy their draft this year, their draft stock, but I've often wondered exactly what NFL scouts are looking at when they make some of these choices on the draft anyhow. I mean, you look at
Yeah.
and this is a guy I loved the way he played in Michael Penix last year. But the guy was injury prone. You just signed Kirk Cousins to a deal in Atlanta and you trade up to get Penix.
Yeah, that
What
was
were they thinking?
insane.
And you left You needed help at corner, and the best corner in the draft was still on the board. I don't get it.
Yeah.
So
I need you guys to call an NFL scout and get them on the show and ask them what they think about the cheating. Can you do that?
I'll tell you, I'd love to do it if we can make a contact with a NFL chat or an NFL scout. I would love nothing more. And hey, Larry Daniels just sent in a $4.99 super chat, and thank you for that, Larry. Eric can taste that cranberry juice already, buddy. But he makes a very good point with that super chat. Knowing the plays is like PEDs. Even if it's only a 10 to 20% advantage, it does make a difference. And he's right. It does. And that goes, Larry, exactly to what we're talking about. How much of a difference did it make in that game? I think we're going to find with some of these players, it made a tremendous amount of difference. And I think the biggest glaring example is going to be J.J. McCarthy. I really do.